Hello? Yeah, and I'll start. Good evening, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more probably to turn up, so we'll probably make a start in about 5 minutes. Please help yourself to the refreshments, and while you're waiting as well, we are going to be using Mentimeter this evening just to get some of your feedback and some thoughts. So if you're waiting, please log on to Menti using the QR code and the codes on screen, which is 86435418. And just to know how you heard about tonight's event, just to start with, and then we've got some more questions at the end. So yeah, we'll start in about 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone. At the moment, I don't think it's working. Hello, testing, testing. Now you're working. That's on mute, Michael. Right, well, it's lovely to see everybody. I think this is brilliant. I hope we have a really quality evening for you. I think we've got three amazing people to hear from this evening. So welcome, and we love feedback, we always want feedback. We have got a feedback tool that we might be able to promote to you. But I think it's just wonderful to see people from so many different organisations across Wales. I've spoken to quite a few people, and it's lovely to see both familiar faces and new people. And I think we've got people from Welsh Gov, Health and Social Care, Local Gov, NRW, National Library, Transport for Wales, such a range of organisations, Old People's Commissioner. So it's such a really good range of people here tonight. So we do these frequently. We do these about every couple of months because we think in CDPS that leadership is critical. Things happen because of leaders, and things don't happen because of leaders. So it's really important to boost leaders, to support leaders, to celebrate leaders, to hear from leaders, and for us all to kind of, help each other. And that's what I hope we'll do a bit of this evening. So yeah, we call them Dolenni Digidol digital networking events. They are aimed at leaders, but we're all here to learn from speakers and from each other. So at these we do follow the comms at CDPS because we think it's really important for people to be visible and to share stories. So by being here, we hope you don't mind us. It's like, as I always say, it's like being packed all evening because so many photographs are taken, but that's because we want to promote the digital vision. So hope if you don't want your photograph taken, please talk to one of the team. We do now live stream these events, and we get a big crowd, obviously, while they're on and afterwards, so that's the link. And I just wanted to take a moment because our theme this evening is leadership, and as I say, it's one of the themes for CDPS this year. We're really investing in leadership training, leader training, and bringing people together. And it's an exciting moment for us because we have got, as I see it, on behalf of the sector, we've got three amazing leaders in the space. We'll hear from two of them this evening, but I just wanted to say that CDPS has a new chair, that's J.M. Frost, and he has a background in Companies House and the BBC, but is totally committed to the digital mission and is incredibly, just so lucky to have him as our chair at CDPS. Matt Lewis, who you'll hear from, has just joined as the chair of the AI leadership group, and as we all know, AI is of intense interest at the moment, and I think that's there's two halves to that. There's let's not mess it up, and let's use it in the best way possible, and that's part of what the AI leadership group, in partnership with the Welsh Government, is here to do that. The leadership group has people, representatives from across the sector, and Matt is our new chair, bringing lots of energy to that. Also joining us as chair of the Digital and Data Standards Board is Becca, who's also here this evening. And that standards board is mandated by the Cabinet Secretary for the Economy to adopt and endorse, promote and champion standards in the digital and technology space. And that is it's a difficult job because we all watch with standards, and it's quite hard to need to stand up before breakfast every morning. But Becca is here to help us with that mission. Again, that's a board that has representation across the sector. So here's the lineup this evening. I don't think I need to say much more other than we have no fire drill planned. So if your fire bell goes, bing bing. And let's just test the simultaneous translation. Allow. Thank you, Alan. Diolch. So our first speaker is Liz. Liz is probably known to most of you. I always feel that we should kind of worship at Liz's feet because she is leading one of the most ambitious digital transformation programs in Wales, and she's going to tell us how she's got everybody round her thumb.
Good evening, everybody. I don't normally need a microphone because I am quite loud, so if I get a bit too loud, just let me know and I'll turn it on. So thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you today about Caerphilly's transformation programme and what we're doing in Caerphilly. So like most public sector organisations in Wales, we've got problems with our finances, and 2 years ago we were set a challenge of saving 66 million over 3 years. So how are we going to do that as a traditional organisation who had all its services in-house? We haven't externalised anything, and we felt we wanted to do everything for the public and continue to do it at a very, very high standard. So it was a huge challenge. We were a traditional authority in our thinking and our delivery. So I can hear you all asking, how did you get involved? So at that time, I was head of customer digital services, and I also had voted onto that role was procurement, which is my profession. I am a procurement profession. I'd like to think I was asked to take the lead role by the director because public service is within my DNA. I got 40 years public service, certainly within procurement and at Caerphilly. I think I put the customer first. I believe passionately about delivering the best possible services and saving money. However, having had this job, I think it was because of my strong will, my questioning of everything. I've got an opinion on everything. I'm not frightened to voice that opinion, and never mind how much you knock me down, I'll get back up every single day and I'll ask those questions again. So 2 years ago, I was asked to lead service transformation for Caerphilly, alongside my colleague Sue Richards, who was leading the transformation of place shaping within the authority. So we couldn't do it alone. A traditional organisation with very standard thinking. We reached out to some partners, and we procured the services of Parago, and some of them are in the room tonight, so you can ask some questions there as well. And Parago's done some challenges to us and said, why are you doing it this way? Can't you do it differently? So we embarked on a 6-week delivery summer of discovery. And we went about looking at where we had duplication, how could we do things differently, where we were overcomplicating services. We quickly realised we needed to change. We thought we had the answers to everything. Okay, we needed to make savings, but most importantly, we wanted to put the customer at the heart of everything that we did. So that discovery, we went on it, and I've never been a fan of discovery, and I can remember saying to Bravo, I'm not doing 6 months delivery now, mind, and not having any results at the end of it, okay? So I've heard so many local authorities doing discoveries, and I know I get challenged Harriet and others in the WLGA as well, and said to them, we need results on the ground. So in all fairness, our discovery set about looking at what we were doing, but we set up personas, we set up a service catalogue, we started to use the Engage programme, so we started process mapping all our service areas that we were starting to look at. And we set up a programme of change which looked at the customer journey within Caerphilly, people's and ways of working. So how was we doing business internally? We were looking at collaborations and partnerships. We didn't collaborate, and we had very few partnerships. So how did we change that? And then we had an unavoidable change, and we've all got them in your organisation, things that has to be done. And these were mainly around IT projects as well. Okay, so we looked at our comms strategy, and again, I wasn't a fan of comms, but I soon realised as a leader, we couldn't have comms that were reactive. We needed to be proactive. We needed to get ahead of the curve because people were desperate for information internally and externally on what we were doing and why we were doing it. So we set up a new strategy. We needed stakeholder engagement, and we needed to define who our stakeholders were and how we were going to engage with those different people. One of our main stakeholders very clear from the outset, this was going to touch everybody. It wasn't just certain services. It wasn't just those that were non-statutory. We were going to touch every single service in the authority, including our statutory services. So what did Bravo do with us? They challenged our thinking and introduced us to the agile way of working. This was a huge challenge for me, and I suppose most local authorities and public sector organisations. Everything out in the open, no reports written with little consultation. Everything was out in the open. So if you looked at Caerffili today, we've got open transparency in everything that we're doing within the transformation programme, and we are delivering at pace. We won't always get it right, and we had to learn to accept that, and we were introduced to the minimum viable product, because Caerffili wanted gold standard on everything, and it would no longer be gold standard. We needed to do it differently. So we set about that and educated people on what was a minimum viable product. And I remember the first time that I had to speak to the team about that, so I described my saddle. For those of you who know me, I participate and play at a bit of dressage. And every time I need a new saddle, my husband says, get the basic, Liz, make sure you get the basic. Whereas I always want the best, obviously. So in December 2024, we created our own PMO. We have program management and project managers. We have multidisciplinary teams. And this highlighted another language change and a learning for Caerffili. Because in the multidisciplinary teams, Bravo started talking to me about SMEs. Well, SMEs in the business world was a small, medium-sized enterprise that I was doing business with all the time. They were not subject matter experts, as I now refer to them as. And we all set up our projects. We've got 34 projects in flight at the moment. We use electronic tools to map those processes. And that is a big issue, training our teams to do process mapping and realise the importance of getting that process mapping right is very, very challenging for us. And we've tried to get the training right, but we still struggle with that one. And we haven't got enough people who are confident enough to use the tools and to make a difference in when they map out their services, as is today for hundreds of people. Standards, we have every Wednesday morning we have a stand-up, and in those stand-ups they go online and in person. We can have anything from 100 people face-to-face and over 150 people online some days, depending on the doing those stand-ups, our corporate management team, so the chief exec, the executive director are all there, and also all our members, all our cabinets are there, and majority of members are online. And they can ask any questions of what we deliver. And that is the big change for us, this open and out new and transparency piece of Caerffili, because Liz would stand up and say, friend, colleague of mine is wrong. Can't say that in public, it's open on profit. If you have to say it, want it in the face, and if something slows us down, then we would stand up and say it. It hasn't always gone down well, and the organisation is getting used to it now, and so it is a challenge to be able to do that. If you come into our agile space, and you're all welcome to come and see our transformation programme, you'll see post-it notepads everywhere. You'll see all our projects that I talked to you about on the walls, and each one of them have a stand-up every single week with a cabinet member involved in every single project, and they're all face-to-face with any program. So it has challenged us all because members are there, and sometimes you don't want to disclose the decisions with the members. I'm lucky because I work We've got centralisation of services, so people will have new managers going forward, we'll have new teams, that's people to self set, but you know, at the end of the day, on new leadership, we've got more job of leadership now than ever before. And support each other. We're being more results and it's a massive and very, very difficult job which affects all of our council. But anyway, and brilliant. Thank you, Liz. You will have questions for Liz, but we're going to keep the questions till the end and then we will ask speakers. By the way, Liz, it's so worth attending Wednesday. Stand up. Perhaps you could share how you can answer questions. Thanks. So now, Becca, CEO of Welsh Local Authority, it might be an exemplary digital organisation. You will say, well, we want people to be do it on the start of the opportunities in sharing vision. So here's Rebecca.
love working in that way. And that's what I've always found, that actually once you actually do start working with users and hearing users, there's something addictive about it. Having that feedback loop, hearing people really use your services is actually, I think, really exciting. Right, so Matt Lewis, very experienced leader in digital and tech space, but walking the walk as in, let's not do everything different ways, let's try to have shared approaches that to things which are common to so many, but actually walking the walk and making that happen through shared resource service. I think there are a few people for me who are as passionate as Matt is about making things better for citizens in Wales. And yeah, over to Matt.
Thank you very much. You've had two amazing presentations. And you've had two amazing presentations. And I've got to go over my suggestions. So I think they will actually next week. First of all, for me, it's a great performance to get. Based on my presentation, I'm not going to launch it with someone else. I'm not going to try and get the team together and I'm going to based on we're going to share service, trying to do this across multiple organisations. As Harry said, we're trying to do this across, so our platform is called Wales. We're called the SMS at the moment, it's better than trying to achieve doing something else across multiple organisations rather than just simply share resources across multiple organisations. So this one, we're all absolutely not we're not Kansas. It's a training every day for all of us. We've spoken already. Each day is never what it seems to be. All the work is to get this done, not just the stuff that we get done. But it was a day where we come to work, we never expect. When you want to buy that for story or each organisation, you start again and lots and lots of things. Something happened, something was always something really challenging, something really difficult, something you didn't really expect that day. One day thought I had teaching, next day she was, next day it's something that it's all, it's just that difficult, right? So this is the kind of main slides we need to go through, but it's just a couple of prompts on the calendar and stuff as well. To me, when I think of it, I can represent the kind of things I think is characteristics of me as an organisation. I know this is kind of leadership talk. I don't see myself as a leader. I call myself that to people. I'm a connector, I'm a doer, I'm a facilitator, I'm a leader. That's what my job is. I connect people together. I'm a credible trainer. more about making sure an act when you're through something, by not being kind of paralysed by it. We get that a lot in our organisations. Things will kind of things kind of die out of service level sometimes. So you get top level support, you get on ground support, but when you wet and it turns out on the head of service, the middle management layer, you get into the challenges and the difficulties of you can't do this, you can't change that, you can't work in a different way. So a lot of my role is kind of facilitating those conversations which try and achieve those different outcomes. And they are really, really challenging. As mentioned earlier, for instance, slide, you have to absolutely have an abandoned instinct to get knocked down every single day. And our service, because we are on a one step removed and we are shared across multiple organisations, we're never classed as one after. We are classed by everybody as being still. So we have to fight our way into all of those conversations all the time. We think that because we've been going 15 years, that would be really simple now. It isn't as challenging now as it was back in 15 years. Absolutely challenging. Part of that is we will only come back to those conversations. People get buffeted and knocked around by it. We can't do this, we can't do that. Part of my role is just rebuilding our confidence and making sure we go back out and have these conversations with staff and the organisation and try and work to an SRS culture, don't take the culture function of the organisation, try to build our own. We've got our own value sets that we've got our staff themselves, and that's really different because each organisation is still expected to operate and act like we're running that, even though we're shared service. So there's kind of 5 versions of I'm talking about matter, platform matter, function matter, and the different versions of each of the organisations just to kind of get by sometimes. Maybe moving across to the icky box in the front left, I'm calling the key into the motion. We'll talk about digital transformation stuff, but people get upset when we try and change stuff. People are unhappy when we try and suggest actually we might be better at doing this. People from different organisations don't typically like moving down the same people. They don't like thinking we're going to take someone else's approach. So I said that is the best way to buy someone else. I want to be in all those conversations. I want all people in all those conversations to know what comes out there. Again, I have to invite people to actually they're trying to deliver safe test services for all organisations that should be around and should be doing this to them. We're maybe forced to admit we don't know the answer to these things. We don't know what the end outcome is going to be. I think that absolutely honesty lies. We need to work with you to figure this out together. I think that works really well across our organisations. It's not that fix a problem scenario that's a question of we're not telling them what you should be doing. We're just trying to get out of them. Best possible outcome for the service to the solutions to move towards. The bit around the bottom, passionate about the work. Between our organisation and myself, the job is hard, the job is challenging, it's difficult. Every day, people have got to have to say, I'm going to offer something else than this. I have always been absolutely what I want to do. And I think you can't build a sustained end in our work if you don't absolutely know what to do. You don't care how long comes to do with how they turn staff or what it is to our authorities. So that's an absolute given for me. If we were a teacher, I'd rather be passionate about the technology. Teach technology, you can't teach someone passionate about the job. And then we're definitely as adults, it's the last because that's the bringing us together for me. You need to have a belief and a purpose. You need to know what the road is to turn if you're getting this style and ideal position or something like that. For me, it's just about you need to be really, really clear on why you want to do and make sure you hold that line with this shared service. So our part of the bwysau, our part of the holding our own they just want the job done. That's my role to make sure our staff understand that there is a purpose to this. We have to still maintain that collaborative outcome at the end of it. We can't sit back and say, okay, we'll just do this and we'll do that and we'll do this and we'll share services together. Sit back and say, let's just do this the first time. So I will work and I will do it. And the resilience bit I didn't mention at the time you can't let any of this become more small, you can't let it knock down, you can't can't get it. Can't give access to all the university, can't get I bit of a 10 few chats with your desire or meetings to local desire. Just have a break with all just struggling with this and key on the relationship. And I don't get all the stuff like all the time, absolutely not. I get most of the stuff all the time. As long as you're working on it, I was almost on relationships. And a lot of things are based on what's gone well or not so well in our minds or between our minds in the last month. Something absolutely disastrous will happen, totally uncertain or to a different dimension, and that will be brought into it, and that will maintain some colour what happens in the conversation. And we need to make sure that we step everything back from that. This is just about emotional search, not what comes in the conversations. If they've got a word to use some how it's reserves or how it survives, distrust. It's like see in a way, kind of abs and those, so I have different levels of trust in different partners, different points of time. A very strong self, different others, different assertive areas, and different measures. I think what successful managers do is maintain a minimum level of trust across the partnership, which show most of the shared services that I mentor when I first came to the organisation about 15 years ago to set it up. They're no longer existing. They've been thrown back out. The issues came in, didn't take it on, the issues were there, shared service organisation, and we decided to different reasons. We've seen 17 different issues over that 15 years across the organisation. We have to maintain a level of trust, and that itself is that pursuit. And it's a challenge, and it's very difficult to maintain that trust and continuous. By the fact that we've been asked to take services and we're going uncomfortable levels of trust with others, it's really positive. So that's a shared service basis.
Yeah, I each of those. I mean, I've like to breathe out and then breathe in. But I think there's something. I feel like if you come here tonight, then you're probably, a brave person that's prepared to think about all those different things that we've heard about tonight, and still want to keep going. So, congratulations to you for coming, and I hope you've heard really inspiring things. So we've got, I think, about half an hour, 40 minutes for Q&A. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to kick off with the question. If you could each kind of be fairly brief in responding, but we've all heard how difficult leadership is, particularly digital leadership, because we're all trying to sway people to do things differently.
Josh.
Josh is not working. So, yeah.
This one's not working.
It's not working.
Nope.
It's not working.
2 months? 2 early months?
2 over mics, I haven't got a mic yet. So.
Can't have.
Okay. Yep.
Come, put your hand up if you want to ask a question. Thank you. I've got a short question, please. So people don't want peace and do what they want to do. So to get the members actually brought in and the senior leaders into the protection that's in the change and the agile way of working and making sure that we do that user-centered design is absolutely critical. But they needed to understand the methodology, they needed to understand the terminology because they were getting very, very confused with that. And then they can see the benefits of that way of working. So hopefully, they will continue to support the programme. Because without their support and without them being there every week, others will fall away as well. And when the leader rocks up every once in a while, everybody stands up and sees. Let me ask a question.
Do you want to follow up as well? There you go.
Thank you, Liz. I did have a second question then for Becca, if that's okay. So you mentioned the importance of having the right capabilities and the right communities. I'm just wondering if you found that when your existing teams and team members have been introduced to DDAP roles and agile ways of working, have you found that they've actually recognised themselves in those frameworks and that they've found that actually, to some extent, they've already been working in those ways, they just weren't aware of them? And if so, do you think raising awareness of these models and ways can help accelerate that transformation by upskilling and empowering people that are already in posts as opposed to bringing in necessarily new talent as a sole kind of solution to these barriers and challenges? Absolutely, I think. And to some extent, I think it's required to be recognised in those ways, just works and working that way to do that. So I think it's really it's really well to get that framework. And it's also relevant conversations that happen to be honest. We have is mentorship yes, design mentorship, fantastic. Can't do something digital mentorships that just results in the same fabulous, but absolutely nothing to just the way to really embrace the opportunities of practice that they will definitely help.
Here we go, Mark. If you want to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Mark from the second doing exactly the same. So I was interested in the examples, but there's opportunities on agile. A lot of talk has been about cost cutting, and there's the danger is that agile systems are seen as a cost cutting exercise as opposed to being better quality, better price, better services. We were very conscious of that at the beginning, and that's why we said we want to
about Becca maybe, but everyone else has got one to add in about how you get your organisation to see services from end to end, and like how hard that is to, because I guess once people start to begin with, people think that that service is how the organisation sees it internally, and to really change it on its head so that they've got citizens that are empowered for the whole service. That means other people giving up what they think is theirs. So how do you sort of tackle that?
Yeah, we're still working through that. Yeah, it's tough, right? And it's kind of been finding a bit, when Yeah, I just wanted to add something on that, because I think sometimes that whole kind of once for Wales vision feels a bit like, oh, it's the really massive things that we've got to just buy one of and somehow make work for everyone. And I don't think that's necessarily a terrible idea, but I would also like to think about it from the kind of the nibbles point of view as well. What much smaller things can we create in common and make available to just pick up off the shelf and use? We're working on something called service patterns at the moment, which is just a way of kind of, this could be your user journey. We know that there are some very similar services which are produced by all sorts of organisations across Wales. And actually, if we've got a pretty good set of user journeys that can kind of work, but if you're applying for something, do you need a license for something, do you want to pay for something? There aren't multiple ways of doing that. So I think that's another way of looking at this that CPS is trying to do, to think about what are the nibbles that you could just, or little things that you could just pick up and accelerate the creation of your service. I always think, when you're thinking about how long something will take to do it, if it's something that's got 100 problems that you've got to solve, if someone else has already solved 50 of them or 70 of them, you've got the other ones left to solve. So that's something that I think we can look at it from the middle end of the telescope as well as the large end of the telescope. Right, a question. Chris, I know you have a question.
I am pursuing it to council. I think the scale of the challenge faced local government is staff, a huge pressure. And so it's really crucial to hear from the likes of Liz and Rebecca around some of the approaches that they've taken and the impact that that's having. I think Liz's transformation program is a fantastic example of delivering around having significant impact, and as a result of its tenacity, be driving it through across the council. And that is one of the biggest challenges I face on a day-to-day basis, is that cultural shift working across such a range of different service areas and different people, different understandings of what transformation is about, what it isn't about, getting them to buy into a vision of doing things differently and finding it a safe space. So hats off to the panel around that. I think my question for Liz is around one of the challenges that I'm currently facing, which is engaging with members, so elected members in local government who come from such a diverse range of backgrounds with different sort of skill sets, different knowledges, different understanding of this whole space. Generally, I would say it's quite a low level understanding, certainly in my local authority anyway. So it's, how did you approach the engagement with members where you've had such an impact with them to get your lead walked in, to get members turning up week on, week in, week out, and maintaining that momentum with them?
Thanks, Chris, for those kind words. It's not my programme for collective leadership ability, so I must empathise. We all in it together. I think there's people in the room that can take a lot of credit for the engagement we had with the members and that team and from Morocco, because they've all been started to do some work with them. I think it's fair to say Victoria and Tim run a number of workshops with our members to highlight the difference that we need to take, the different approach, and to get them on board with that new engagement in the way of working. So we started out with a number of workshops with obviously the cabinet and then the wider members. We've done lots of work through the agile area, so we would run workshops with them and bring them in, and we would do presentations to them about the programme, the enormous task and challenge in front of us. We've done regular reports to council. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've done another walkthrough, but we did it slightly different this time. So we invited all members in on 2 evenings, just for council meeting on the screen meetings. We knew that
introduce yourself as well.
Hi, thank you for saying that. We're the beginning of our service transformation. We're doing our first service and looking at, but something we struggle with because we know that we're vertical in the train. We've got a lot of services ahead of us. Prioritisation is something we're struggling with, so I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on how you said you're still working on it, but we've always in the past maybe gone with those who shouted loudest, those who have the biggest budget, and that's not the way we want to work in the future. We're very aware that the great work we're doing with the first service has started people talking about almost high turn, so and then there's always people that have been waiting a long time. So how have you come up with a way of trying to prioritisation kind of works? Not sure it works, but so we started out, we had no idea what change programmes were ongoing in the authority. We didn't have to. So we just brought everybody that wanted to be part of the programme. So any member of staff, all leadership, members, and exec directors, all had to come in and write on post-it notepads what change they've been doing or they'd like to see done. And we walked around on the person, we walked around with loads and loads of post-it notepads, and then we sat in the prioritisation table and we actually put them up on the board. We started to block them all together as what we call. Tim is an absolute genius with this because he can look at about 20 post-it notepads and put them into a block and say that's what he needs. And so basically that's what we've done, and that's how we got the programs then. So the customer journey, any change that was customer facing that had an impact on the customer into customer journey, anything that was people and ways of working into that went into ways of working. Collaborations and partnership then obviously came out to those things that we could do differently with partners and collaborations. That was your measure, your libraries, and the sports
they're looking for deeper and more involved, more rich conversations with the sector as to how they can engage the community. So yeah, that's what we're doing for essentially.
I certainly think it's a role for the voluntary sector, and that's one of the areas with our collaborations and partnerships that we are looking at. We can tap into the voluntary sector to help us, because they are better to services.
Hello, I am Jo Carter. I work for Service Works in Cardiff. I'm interested to know, kind of on the basis that we all learn more from things that maybe went wrong. If each of you have a time machine and you could go back to the beginning of this journey, what would you do differently? What would be sort of one key learning you would take with you in that time machine?
I hopefully will put my hands to it. I think it's communications. I've learned a lot in the last 2 years about the importance of getting that communications from staff right and as right as we possibly can. And so, yeah, thank you to make sure we're okay. I think I did spend a lot of time trying to think about certainty when we jumped in, and everyone was kind of oh, let's just get something going, come on. And we kind of decided to fill out the continuous improvement bit of the services, so we're looking at service owners and how the team can actually make changes and get frustrated. But I'm not sure that was maybe the best way to do that. We took a bit longer to kind of done it all joined up at the same time, and I think that might have worked a bit better on that side.
I think for me it's to be great and quicker with a lot of things done. Say a time machine, I'll make a mistake tomorrow, so maybe something else will come down. I wish I had done it, don't know. But it's absolutely, when I look back at some of the really big things we've done, whether it's all the technology projects we've worked with, have been to make those decisions much quicker. People can cope with more changes that they come to the public sector. And the kind of exponential growth of stuff hitting through the private sector, Microsoft's and AWS's and AI and everything's come through. There's a belief that we can't cope with everything, but it's that big people more resilient. And certainly the younger workforce coming in, they are more ready for some of those things than we are. And I think we assume that they can't. We assume that we need to kind of coach everybody into stuff. So for me, it's absolutely, let's make big bold decisions further nearer in the process or earlier in the process, but you'll be
Yeah, one more question, and then I have a final question for the panel. Transport for Wales?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mandy, I'm 19 in Digital Services Director of Transport for Wales. So on the leadership front, I'd like to know from each of you, if possible, what has been the most effective way to say no?
I'm not answering that. Yeah, so for us, we get that across multiple different organisations. I think I mentioned in the presentation, it's that honesty. It's when something just can't be done, you just need to be honest with the user of that kind of thing. And sitting down with the right people, you need to find that right person in the organisation who will support you, taking that message back into the organisation. So it'll be different for us in the back, but for us, it's finding that kind of real support in the organisation, willing to support you in that challenging conversation back in. But absolute honesty, don't sugarcoat it, be really blunt. I guess from a partnership perspective, we have organisations that join, we have organisations that lead. You have to be really honest as to what the fit is in the shared service
not jump to a no, but soon you know it's going to be a no. Just communicating that in open and honest things at the first blush is much better than dragging it along and then doing it down the line. Quite good at saying no. And I've got a lot of scars from saying no. So these days I try to say no with love. I say no to them as well.
You need a homeschool saying no with love. Okay, I've got a final question for each of you. And it's kind of, I guess, the matching question to the one Joe asked about what have you done in the past. So I want you to think about what's coming over the horizon and what you think we should be focused on.
I think obviously AI will impact on AI, the way in which we deliver those services, but we've got to start doing more together, and we've already discussed this. We've been on the ground, there's no need to be doing it 22 times anyways, so I think us doing together, the biggest challenge for me at the moment is getting that. I think Tim's going to say the same thing. I think as the AI is really interesting, just in ratchet back our knowledge into more systems thinking, which you can do AI workflows for okay, they're just down the line. We haven't thought about the whole system together. I think we really stand up for that kind of bigger picture, bigger greater collaboration on scale. So I think in the way there's two different different priorities. So taking it up a lot, drawing that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a great chair which relations are not done with it. I think what my future roles mean to be more open to learn more from this. If you look at what we're doing in England, then we're doing a lifting people out, putting them in the centre, which then tries to understand how we do things more effectively across all the work together. Until you free up that capacity, we talk about this a lot, until you free the people out and they haven't got day job stuff to do, until you allow them space, time, and creativity to think actually how do we do this differently together. You're not going to make a successful collaboration across the 22. If you happen to do a day job and do that on top, it's not going to happen. So my future is unless we put capacity in, whether it's funding or muscle or whatever, I don't know, until we put that capacity in to do something differently, try and change that model, the model will just continue to
Yeah, thank you. Do you know what's really struck me this evening is that none of us have talked about technology really. And I actually think that the way we've heard from our three speakers, they could have been speaking about anything in a way, because each of the way they've approached things would have succeeded whatever they were doing. I think that's to me it's really critical that we don't think digital is technology or services are just through technology. This is actually about doing something well no matter what it is, working well together no matter what you're working on, and leading with, I don't know, passion, openness, confidence, positivity, no matter what it is. And that's really struck me this evening. I don't think anyone's talked about technology, we've mentioned AI, but it's all about how you do things. It's not about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. That's come through really powerfully to me. So yeah, this evening is about leadership. We've got a big focus on leadership. We've got a training program which is around leading modern public services. We've had 4 cohorts of that by the end of the year, but it is open to everyone in the public sector, and we will encourage you to either think about it for yourselves or to nominate someone who you think it would benefit. But the last thing I want to say is that these Dolenni Digidols happen every couple of months in different parts of Wales, but this year they're building up to what we're currently calling a digital summit, but we've also said let's not call it a summit. It's a terrible title, but it's leading up to a kind of all Wales let's all get together. Everyone who's been to a Dolenni Digidol, please come to the event in February, which we're not calling it a summit. What are we calling it, Mike? We'll just call it a summit for now. It's a thing. Come to the thing. Come to the thing in February. That's kind of what we're trying to say. Look, we have these conversations, and then we'll culminate in this summit in February, which is likely to be in Cardiff. Like everybody who's come to a Dolenni Digidol to come to that if you possibly can. So yeah, those are our next Dolenni Digidols. We'll be at the Eisteddfod for 2, of course. And Mike, any final things? Do you want people to go on the Menti meter and give us some feedback?
I would love that, because I've got targets. If I don't get enough feedback, then I'm out of a job. So yes. So if you can, just got the QR code there on screen. I think you've already done a bit of testing at the beginning, but we really value feedback. Like I said, we've been running these events for over a year now, but we're always wanting to improve and make sure we're giving you what you want in terms of the impact they're offering. So and hopefully we'll start to make some connections this evening. But yeah, please go on feedback now, and yeah, just get your honest feedback, and see you at our next event. Like I said, if you can't make it in person, geographically, then we'll see you live stream as well. So yeah, hopefully.
So we've got this room now, and we've got our refreshments. We've got the room till at least 7:30, haven't we? So have a drink, have a chat, and thank you so much for coming. And most importantly, thank you so much for these inspirational leaders who shared their thoughts with us. Thank you.
Yeah, as Harry said, lots of refreshments.